What up guys, this is Kong and today I'm back in for another anime review. Today I'm going to be talking about Darling in the Franxx Season 1 Episode 18, I believe. So let's talk about this episode. There's a lot of information that is given us in this episode 18. There's so much. I don't know if you guys gonna want to watch the whole review. There's so much to talk about. But I'm gonna talk about the part that I find important, find critical, point that will have some ramifications, some problem down the road, maybe for the characters that are in this series. So this episode is really a talk about. This is the biography of Dr. Franx, and Dr. Franx and the ape organization. So we don't know much. I'm just gonna start off. We don't know much about apes, the organization. They're just a group of people who apparently want to attain immortality. They want to lead humanity away from mortality, I guess, so that's their goal, and they hired out Dr. Franx. And Dr. Franx was, he was hired out to develop and do research to help humanity achieve immortality, and that was his sole purpose of being employed by the ape. And along the way, we learned that Dr. Franx had met another woman, Marisa, I believe, another woman who is a scientist like him, and he, they have developed this mutual relationship of, mutual scientists. They both work on this some of the project together, and they both live together. And then eventually, at a certain point, they were at this dinner, and she said, she asked him a question: why hasn't he, go through the process of becoming immortal? And he's like, I'm not. Well, I don't want people to monkey around with my body, And she said, yeah, me too, And she does, and they're both still human at this point. They still have reproductive capability, you can say. And she's telling him that she want to have kids, and she's like, I've been trying to, let this other guy know that, I'm interested in the relationship. I want to get married, I want to have kids. And he's dumb as a dance. He's dumb as a doornail. He doesn't know that she's talking about him. So they decided to proceed to get married. And but it seemed like it never got to that point where they signed the paper, they had kids. They were in the process of getting married. And he also, went on to see this project, this Callosaurus. And speaking of the Callosaurus, with all of this, this episode also saw how, humanity had left the civilization behind and that sort of thing. And then the Callosaurus, came on the surface, and they're ancient race, ancient species, or ancient species, and they were attacking humanity, I guess you can say, or the immortal humanity. So to say, I guess if you know what I'm talking about. So that's the problem. And then he had to come up with some way to fight the Callosaurus, and in order to do so, he had to, human, or I guess you could say the human that were immortal, or he had to create children that were capable of having reproductive capability, reproductive, to have kids. And it was kind of ironic because even the character even said it, that all this time we want to be immortal, yet we have to be mortal to fight these beings, these monsters, And it was kind of the flip, because he was like, all this time we're going that way, and yet we are drawn back. And this is why, and then you get to see why the robot are called Franx, because it was named after Dr. Franx. He was the architecture, he was the designer, and the designer of these robots. And now it totally makes sense why the title said Darling in the Franx. Franx is basically designed and created by our Dr. Franx. And that was interesting how it all tied up together like a perfect ribbon, perfect tie. And then it also, in this episode, also speak about creating the child that have a capability of capable of having children. Because in order for the robot to be able to use, they have to have productive organ, and they also have to be injected with yellow blood cell or magma of some sort, to be in sync with the robot, and to in sync with each other, and the implement of a female and a male to pilot the Franx. And that's the whole gist of the whole thing that we get in this episode. We receive a lot of info about this episode, I'm sorry. And okay, so we go that, and then we also find out that, I'm gonna leave that to the end. Then there's a confrontation between the squad and the ape leaders and APE leader, and they were saying, hey, we turn our crew, their memory bank. Like, no, we're not. And Hero said, after we do this, you have to set us free. We're gonna go on our own, And I thought that was like, wow, because the reason I say that is because to me, they're thinking human. They're making decisions like adults, and they are moving on because they feel like they're not growing. They're not living up to life, to the fullest, to live the life that they should be. And then Zorome, I think one of the guys actually say, how many Calosaurus do we have to kill in order for us to grow? And the ape leaders didn't answer. That tells me one thing. It tells me that these kids will never grow out to become adult. They were born and raised to pilot these Franx, to fight the Calosaurus. They were never meant to grow up, to become an adult, to have kids, to grow old age and die. That were never part of their their program, or never part of their raising, or the program itself. And he cried, and that to me I feel sad for the character, because they would never get the chance to grow old. They will never get the chance to have kids. But I think they can, because Dr. Franx said they have to have the capability in order to operate the Franx. But we will find out in later episodes, maybe that they are capable of having kids, especially this group of kids. So yeah, and I thought that was really, really, really sad, and it was it was sad for the group, because they know that they'll never grow up, that they don't really have any other purpose other than operating the Franx. It was just sad to, as an audience, to know that, and you're like, damn, it sucks when you're born and raised just to do one thing and not able to live out your life that you wanted to. It really hurts. it should hurt you as a person, but it hurt me too, because it's like you are an sentient being. You want to live the life you want to live, not because someone programmed and made you to do certain thing. And they still have choices. They have choices. These kids have choices. They're not held hostage by these apes. Obviously, they don't have any security team on them and Dr. Franx. And so I thought that was interesting. Now going back to Dr. Franx, I know I'm kind of go off and on, but these are the things that I want you to know about this episode. So Dr. Franx had met the queen bee, or the leader of the Calosaurus, and she licked his finger and she bit his arm off, literally, like his whole entire arm off, and that gotta be fucking painful. Like his arm had literally torn off, and he goes back into the facility, and he had a couple of the queen bee here, and what we found out is that he had used that because the ape told him, hey, you need to bring back some kind of DNA, and he brought that back as some DNA. He created the clone from the original source, and they even show it that he had the strand, and he cloned this unborn, not an unnatural born child. Okay, so it's born in the tube, and I believe that the child that Dr. Franx is raising is actually 02. Because the reason I say that is because when there is some kind of, when the hand came out, when she had a painful memory or nightmare, she is psychologically connected to the queen bee, which is her original self. You see what I'm saying here? Is that 02 is the clone of the queen bee. She is the original one, and 02 is the clone. No doubt she is her own person, her own personality, but she is the clone of the queen bee. And 02 does not know this. And I think that Hiro do know. He said that, I know what you have done. I've seen you done in her memory. But that doesn't say much. How much did he see? We don't know. And so I thought that was interesting, that Dr. Franx had a lot of secret. He's not a perfect human. He is not a good guy or a bad guy. He is flawed for sure. He have his own selfish goal, as we all do as human. So, and I believe that, eventually, the original queen bee and 02 are gonna confront each other, because they have to. They are one of the same. But 02 is obviously the clone, and then queen bee is actually the original one, the original queen bee. And in relating, now that when I think about it, like, I think that, remember what I said about earlier in earlier episodes, that 02 said she's not able to have kids. That may hold some truth to that, because the reason I say that, because the queen bee, though we don't know if she's able to have children of her own, it doesn't mean that 02 is unable to have children of her own, because she is a clone. She is different from the original being, the original person. So she might be able to have kids. We don't know, because the story hasn't gotten to that point yet, and we haven't seen them share the bed together, make love together. So yes, and I thought that was really, really, really interesting, because it totally makes sense, because all the flashback and all the headache that she had was because she was the clone of the original Queen Bee. So I like to how this will affect the relationship between Hero and her and Dr. Franx, and her as as a person. Is she gonna eventually confront with the issue, the answer of her? Is she the clone, or how is she gonna live her life? How she's gonna perceive from being a clone, just like Hero and the others, and how she perceived from that, we will see, and the ramification of that. Obviously, Dr. Fred is gonna have to suffer some word, let's just say, from the squad. So I thought that was interesting too, and so we will get to see more of that. And then also, this episode also showed that Dr. Franx is still human. He's still human all these years. And he has fell in love too. He was on the path of having children too. So he was no different than the kids that wanted to start a family, to still have that mortality. So I thought that was really interesting. What else can I talk about? Yeah, this episode give us a lot of information about the origin of the ape, Dr. Fran's design of the Franx, his relationship, the death of his partner, and his the cloning of the Queen Bee. Potentially, I think that's I want to say for sure, and we will see the ramification of that and how that's going to turn out. So yes, this episode given us a lot of answer. It give us bits and pieces of what we have not seen in all these previous episodes. And this turn, I keep telling you guys, I really like this series, because it really goes and talks about what it is to be human, to procreate, to get married, to die of old age, to have emotions, and to be sad, happiness, that sort of thing, and passions and goals and that sort of thing, about humanity, mortality and immortality, pursuing that. This series really, really, drive and talk about that sort of those subjects in a really unique and interesting way, especially for an anime. I think this series is probably the only series that really talks about and address those kind of issues. All these other anime are just about hardware, training, that sort of thing. It doesn't address the humanity, our conditions, our living conditions. So that's why I like this about. So again, guys, I know it's a long, anime review of the series, but I want to say, please like, thumbs up, share, subscribe, and press that bell button to help me and help you. It's a both-way street, okay? And most importantly, I want to say thank you so much for your time and effort to watching my anime review of Darling and the Franxx, episode 18. Season 1, episode 18. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.